This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter. This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter. I am Mike White, and you can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter. Okay, guys, I've got a level with you listeners. It's just me today. It's just me, Matt. What I'm doing is I'm releasing a B-roll episode of the podcast, which is just some of the recordings that we recorded throughout time. And I'm going to just compile them into a makeshift episode since we can get together to record this week. So this is a B-roll episode of ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Okay, so basically what's going on is that Mike was a jerk and bought a house. So he and his wife are busy settling in and moving in and all that, and they haven't gotten internet back and all that stuff. So what I'm doing is basically I gave the troops a week off. So now it's just me without them to keep me contained. So this should be a fun little experiment. Basically, I have several clips that I'm going to play so that you guys don't have to miss a week of our fabulous podcast. So without further ado, why don't we get started on it? I think that'll be fun. Let me actually find the folder. There we go. Now which one should I play first? You know, here's a clip from February 3rd, 2014. It's a small tangent about propaganda in Lone Survivor. We kind of covered it a little bit, but this was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing in the middle of an episode that we recorded that actually ran kind of long. But here are my thoughts, or our thoughts, on the propaganda in Lone Survivor.
Mike, you mentioned that you're not that interested in seeing Lone Survivor. Are you not really a big fan of war movies, or is it just?
I am not.
Okay.
No, I'm not. Modern day war movies.
Oh yeah.
Hoorah! Current army guys. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I have an anecdote about that movie. In my review, I mentioned that I didn't give it a positive review. I wasn't a fan of it as much as I wanted to be, but. In my review, I mentioned that it's like one of the big parts about it was that they seem to go out of their way to criminalize or make the Taliban the bad guys.
Well, it is a war action movie in America,
which is silly because who doesn't think Taliban and think, oh, well, maybe we should root for these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to the point where it's almost propaganda. And it's like, why propagandize something that's already depicted as we're clear on that, guys. But It was funny because I was looking on Get Glue, which is now TV Tag, but, one of the check-ins and all that was just perfect because it was like, this makes me hate the Taliban even more.
Even more.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like, oh god.
America is so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yep.
Ah, what a great clip. Huh. So many memories. I totally listened to it. I'm not going to just put the clips in later when editing, you know. Good clip. Before we move along, here's a promo for the Sounds Like an Earful podcast.
Hi there, my name's Christopher. I live in a very small town in Canada, and life mostly confuses me. So I started a podcast where I call people and ask them really big questions. It's called Sounds Like an Earful. This is the first time I've had a real person to talk to.
Can you ask people if they have a list of things I can do to make a new friend?
I feel wonderful right now.
The only thing that's making me feel really good are the chemicals pumping through my body.
So men don't whine?
No, they just suck it up and they drink their whiskey and...
Well, I do that.
But you whine while you're drinking your whiskey.
You can find more of the show at soundslikeanearful.com or tweet us at sounds_earfuls. You're awesome. I didn't like you at first, but now I do.
See y'all. Bye. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. Have fun. Pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later, guys.
So let's see. Now I'm all alone in my studio here. This is weird. It's sad. I didn't even get yoga latte like I usually do. It just didn't feel right. Didn't feel right. So this next clip is from March 4th. Mike and I went on to kind of a small tangent, I guess, about Prisoners, and it's about the ending of Prisoners. So there is a slight chance of getting spoiled. So if you haven't seen Prisoners and you don't want to get spoiled, go ahead and skip this section. You can check the timestamps in the show notes and everything. The lyrics page or the MP3 file, all that. But yeah, we just had a little bit of a disagreement about Prisoners, and then it turned into a very lively discussion about the ending and the ambiguous nature of the ending or the clarity of the ending. We were a little split on that one. So here is our Prisoners debate. And also check out the movie, because the movie is really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what else have you guys been watching?
Matt, let's talk about the ending of Prisoners.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Tiny, you've seen Prisoners. Yeah, you've seen Prisoners.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, you're probably just going to turn this podcast off for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, just go into the show notes and go to the timestamps. I'll have it labeled to where you can avoid spoilers. Also, if you're listening to it on like an MP3 or like your phone or something, check the lyrics section of it, and it should be on there for you.
Starting now.
Right now.
So
Prisoners.
The end of it, as we know, if you have seen it, just a reminder, Keller Dover, played by Hugh Jackman, is stuck in the little pit under the car at the end of the movie. And Detective Loki, I don't know that we get his first name.
I don't think
David?
so either.
I don't remember.
Benjamin? I don't know. Loki. Played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's looking around, and they have a team, an excavation team, but they go away, and everything kind of turns off, and there's no sound, and he is kind of walking away, and then he thinks he hears something and turns around, and then shakes his head and walks away, and then hears a whistle, and we hear the whistle, and then he kind of looks, and his eyes kind of light up, and then the screen goes black.
Mm-hmm.
See, my memory of it, and you have the full benefit of seeing it twice.
I did. I saw it in theaters, and I just watched it on Saturday.
Yeah, but the way that I saw it was that he questioned whether, like, he kind of paused and kind of was thinking, like, okay, it's nothing, or he's kind of considering it, and it kind of went on just a little bit too long. It felt like Inception. It felt like a thing where
it's purposefully ambiguous.
Yes. I felt like it was completely ambiguous.
Right. And my argument, and I text, we were talking about, basically this conversation stems from, I talked about how big of a snub it was at the Oscars, and
I agree
how
fully.
it's better than most of the movies that were nominated. And you, Matt, said one of the things that rubbed you the wrong way was the ambiguity of the ending, and almost kind of the rip-off of the Inception factor. And my argument was, I don't think it's ambiguous at all.
See, that's something I just can't get behind, because if it wasn't left ambiguous, why did they go in that direction? Not so much that they would show him questioning whether he was hearing something and he would go for it, but why would they put him in that position in general? I mean, if they weren't going to go for an ambiguous ending, why would they put an ending like that if they didn't want us to question whether or not it was, unless I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a couple reasons. For one, drama, and it's exciting and it's interesting to see that he is put where his daughter was put. It also kind of pays off the survivalist aspect of him, that he would continue to survive despite a bullet to the leg and a twisted ankle and being in this pit. I think that he maintains his ability to blow a whistle is impressive, and I think that's something that is paid off early. And I think it's just an interesting twist. But I also think that showing outright him get out is too happy an ending. Like, we know that he's going to go to prison. We know that Keller's in trouble, and it's not going to be happy, and he's probably not going to see his daughter for at least a couple months. And I think that's fine. What's interesting about this conversation, Matt, is that when I first saw the movie, I had the exact same reaction as you.
Yeah.
I was like, why didn't they show that? What the heck is that? I wasn't like, oh, what was it? I was like, well, clearly he gets out, but why didn't they show it?
What I feel like they were going for with it was that they wanted Loki. They wanted us to question whether Loki would do the same thing that what was the guy's name? Hugh Jackman's name?
Keller Dover.
Keller. They wanted us to question whether Loki would kind of do the same thing. Would he? Because I mean, what Keller did was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But they want kind of, I don't know. It's a stretch. It's a big stretch. Because, and it probably isn't the case at all, but the only thing that I could reconcile of that ending was that they wanted us to question whether Loki would do the same thing, the same kind of thing that Keller did. Would he punish Keller for what he did, and be kind of his own vigilante, or would he save him as someone who's done that, or as someone, with the authority of the law?
Oh, so I don't know. I think that's a stretch.
I know.
I think he saves him.
And I feel like if they were intending to put that question in our minds, and even if they weren't, just the fact that was in my mind is because I couldn't really understand why they would choose that ending. And if that is the ending that they were going for, I feel like that wasn't properly set up, because we didn't see Loki dealing with moral ambiguity the way that Keller was. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like it was the one blemish of an otherwise, I mean, just incredible movie.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the ending was just off the mark enough for me to be irritated with it.
So would you like it to have gone a little further and seen him like dig him up? Or what?
I've wondered this, and I don't know how I would have ended the movie. I have it in my head, this whole dichotomy between Keller and Loki is Keller's doing his own thing, trying to find out on his own, going against, the law pretty much. And while Loki's trying to find them with his own tactics and all that, if I remember correctly. And it's kind of this interesting kind of back and forth, I guess, and it's kind of clouding, like, Keller's behavior is clouding Loki's investigation into what's actually happened. So I don't know. I feel like maybe there could have been a scene where he finds him, and then, I mean, if they wanted an ambiguous ending, or if they wanted something like that, they could have had a scene that's a back and forth between them that is left with us wondering, okay, is Loki actually going to save him, or is he just because maybe they're talking out the morals of what's happened. And I mean, obviously if that's the case, if they actually show him finding him, obviously he's going to save him, because I assume he would save him, because I mean, he's a father, and I mean, that's a really weak thing to do. But I mean, maybe if they would have ended it with, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I would end it, but I feel like if they wanted us to know that he did save him, they would have showed something more concrete than that, because I think that was intentionally ambiguous.
you do think it was intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah, because
and again, I'm going to stick with I think it's not. I think it was a moment of great tension, and I think it builds up, and then you get the release before the screen goes black.
Okay.
Tiny, what do you think?
Tiny, what do you think?
I'm with Mike. I think it's.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's that ambiguous. It's definitely not the same kind of ambiguity as Inception.
Right, yeah. And maybe that just clouded my, because it's played out fairly similar for at least until the ending, until the last.
And I've gone on record as saying with Inception that even Chris Nolan doesn't know what happens at the end of Inception.
Mm-hmm.
That is ambiguous to the point where it doesn't matter.
And what's funny about that is that I've said many times that it topples over. It's the real world. He's fine. And like I've said it with complete confidence that was that it wasn't ambiguous. So I think this is an interesting conversation. And I need to see Prisoners again. I really do. Maybe my opinion will change as well, and I'll mention it whenever I do see it again.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, it was one of my favorite movies from last year. The two movies that I feel got snubbed were Prisoners and Out of the Furnace, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah. 2013, and we're now 3 months into 2014, so it's kind of silly to say this, was such a damn good year. So many movies I remember from this last year.
Yeah.
And Prisoners may be best of all. Like 12 Years a Slave, I will always remember, and you'll always say, man, how about that movie? But like the next time I compile a list of my top favorite movies, Prisoners is going to be on there.
Nice.
No doubt.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah, and that is confirmed after watching it on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah, I need to see it again.
Yeah.
Cool.
Before we move on, here's a promo for the Nerds You're Looking For podcast.
Hey guys, it's Pat.
And Tyler.
And we are the co-hosts of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast.
We're just two nerds that love talking about nerd stuff, whether it be comics, video games, movies, or TV shows. We start every episode off talking about what we're into. We talk about how we've become the nerds we are today. We go through our nerd news, all the breaking nerd news throughout the week. And we end each episode with a review or a top 5 of something in pulp culture that we love.
It is a bi-weekly podcast that posts every other Monday. You can find all of our episodes on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and our companion blog, thenerdspodcast.com. And we are the nerds you're looking for. Take it easy, guys.
See ya.
Let's see. This next clip... You know what? This next clip is a little tangent that we had about accents and impressions. It was recorded in October, I think, of 2013, but it was a fun little tangent. So, and it didn't make the cut of the episode we recorded it for. So here you go. Actually, it was part of our pre-show. Yeah, and I cut it out and saved it. So here you go. Accents and impressions.
I really would like to be a voice actor on a cartoon.
You could do it.
Awesome.
I would like to be the voice of a cartoon character. That's like a dream of mine.
Nice.
You do voices very well.
You do.
Thank you.
You really do.
Thanks. It's a point of pride. So that's a compliment. Thank you.
The superfans part of the John Dugan episode, like, I like it just killed me.
I'm not even doing a thing. Like I'm doing an affectation on my voice now. That's actually how I talk.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was so convincing. I've noticed that you have just a very slight Chicago twang.
Yeah.
Very
I've
slight.
noticed that too. Yeah.
Because
it was neutralized. I mean, I've lived in Indiana for like 14 years now, so it's been neutralized since. But I used to.
Yeah. My dad is from northern Indiana, like right on the lake. It's like 30 miles from Chicago. That's where he's from. And so like all of my family from up there, it's not quite a Chicago twang, but it's really, really close.
Sure.
And so I'm pretty familiar with it. Kind of that nasally thing, kind of nasal.
It's really long A's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that like when you say
It's
Breaking
really
Bad.
long, short A's. Do what?
I've noticed that when you like say Breaking Bad. I've noticed that kind of
Breaking
affectation.
Bad?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
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 But we're not.
Nothing wrong with it or anything.
Yeah, we're not teasing. It's just-
Yeah, whatever, guys.
I love it, dude. I love regional accents. I think it's so like I sound like a douchebag, but seriously.
Well, thank you.
As opposed to me and Tiny with our Indiana accents
With our
or whatever.
we don't have accents at all.
Yeah, our nondescript accents.
Not really. Indianapolis isn't so bad. It's not great around here. I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. The Hoosier drawl
Yeah.
sounds like a Southern accent.
Right. Washington.
Washington.
Car wash.
Car wash.
You say I said Washington, and it sounded more like Jodie Foster than Mr. Lecter.
Mr. Lecter.
It's cold. It's very cold.
I'm shit with voices. I can't do a voice at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, except for
just kidding.
well, thank you. No, except for like I've been working on oh my god, what's his name? Buddy Garrity from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, you can do a decent Buddy Garrity.
Yeah, it's like hang on. The Dillon Panthers are going to state.
Nice.
And that's pretty much the only thing I can say.
The Panthers.
The Panthers.
He kind of adds an
to
H to the end of his S's. The
Yeah,
Panthers
yeah.
are going to state.
Right.
And my dad's older brother lives in Milwaukee, and his wife, my aunt obviously, is from like northern Wisconsin, and they all
they're a bunch of cheeseheads.
yeah they
Up
talk
there
like
in Wisconsin. I can't do
they
it.
talk like it's like Canada Light. It's like
it is.
Canada
That's
Light.
exactly what it's like.
Yeah,
Yes.
like
Oh,
watch
don't you know?
watch the movie Fargo. They talk exactly.
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I love you,
yeah.
Norm. Did all those bad things for a bunch of money. Jeez.
That's really good.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
That's really good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Uh,
I love
Sound
their
like
accent.
Frances herself.
Yes.
I do a pretty awesome Indiana accent, but whatever.
Sorry, we're not recognizing your talents, man.
No, it's cool. I have no talent.
Baloney.
Those guys are crazy. Am I right? You should follow them on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. You know, Obsessive Viewer, at Obsessive Tiny, at I Am Mike White. Find us on Facebook, The Obsessive Viewer. Yeah, that'd be really cool. So this next clip is a short one. It's Mike and I were waiting for Tiny to get ready to record, so we just talked a little bit about Bates Motel. It was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. We were talking talking as friends instead of as podcasters. So it was fun. So here you go. Mike and Matt on Bates Motel.
Hey, dude.
Hi, Mike.
What's up?
Not much. Can you hear me through the mic, or am I going through Skype or blah, blah, blah?
I can't exactly tell. I don't have headphones in yet.
Oh, okay. I think I'm fine. I'm good.
You sound all right.
Sweet.
I actually I missed your text because I was watching Bates Motel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy that was scary. Did you just start it, or are you caught up?
We are halfway through episode 6.
Okay. You know, on ObsessiveViewer.com, you can read episode by episode reviews of every episode.
And I have been, actually.
Have you seriously?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, shit, that's awesome.
Every time an episode is over, I read your post.
That's awesome. What do you think? Because I kind of, at a certain point in it, I was like, I'm f***ing writing reviews for every goddamn episode.
Yeah. It's good. They're good. There was one where I could tell that you were not in the mood for doing it that day.
Yeah. I think with the second season, I've gotten a little bit better with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that first season was just kind of rough.
and then I fucking went back and did it for Under the Dome, which I don't even know if I want to fucking do it this season with that show, because I don't even know if I want to watch that fucking show.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's also like the highest rated summer show on TV last season, so I'm like, might as well do it for the clicks.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
So do you like Bates Motel?
I do. I actually like it quite a bit. It's got to be interesting from your perspective. You haven't seen the original Psycho, have you?
No, but I've seen the remake, the shot remake. So I get the gist of it.
Okay. There's some things like I wasn't sure about Freddie Highmore.
It's interesting because reading your review on the first episode, you spoke very highly of him, and I was like, man, he's not that good.
And you know what's funny? I don't remember if I mentioned this in the first review, or I think I circled back and did it. But there's just that scene in that opening scene where he's pounding on Norma's the bathroom door, and then as soon as she opens the door, it's really quick, but it's like she's like, or she looks at him, and then he's like, "It's Dad, hurry!"
Yeah,
and it's just, I'm like, it's like cringeworthy, just the delivery of it.
I wonder if it's another instance of me not being able to get into someone because of their accent. Oh
yeah, maybe. I just think there's a little bit. I can tell where he's drawing some inspiration from Anthony Perkins' performance.
Yeah.
So I can respect it on that level, but I don't know.
He's good. He's okay.
He's gotten better.
Yeah.
I think I was just expecting the worst.
Really?
When it started out. Yeah, I think. I don't fucking remember.
Have you seen Finding Neverland?
A long time ago. I kind of forgot. He was one of the kids in it, right?
Yeah, he's Peter.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
He's fantastic in that movie.
Nice. I own that movie, and I haven't seen it since I bought it.
Huh.
Which was like when it came out. Like I have a used. I bought it used from Blockbuster. That's how long ago it was. So. I'm trying to remember what episode 6 of Bates Motel is. That just turned out to a nice little bit of B-roll I can put in.
Yeah.
By the way.
Hey, I'm actually going to restart my computer.
Go nuts.
Let me do that. I'll be right back.
All right, we're going to take a little break and play a promo for the DnDUI podcast. Here you go.
Hey, do you like drinking?
Love it.
Do you like playing Dungeons & Dragons?
Absolutely.
Then there's a podcast for you.
Really?
DnDUI.com.
That's amazing.
DnDUI.com, a podcast and webcomic about drinking ourselves under the tabletop.
All right, and moving right along, here is a clip from March 4th, same day as our prisoners thing. That was actually, I think that was part of one of our extended potpourri episodes, maybe the first one, the one where we talked about... maybe not the first one, but the one where we talked about True Detective at length, and also about How I Met Your Mother before the finale. Which, I've actually been revisiting How I Met Your Mother. It's been kind of my go-to thing, kind of turning it on whenever I'm bored or like eating dinner or something or getting ready to go to bed. And to be honest, I don't know. The show still holds up well, despite the ending. I mean, the episodes themselves are fine. Like, I still love the episodes. It didn't retroactively destroy the series for me or anything like that. Some stuff kind of gets to me. Like, I'm about to spoil the How I Met Your Mother finale in case you haven't watched it yet, somewhat, so just be careful here. There's an entire episode where there's an episode in crap, I can't remember what season, but there's an episode where Marshall has a fantasy. The only way Marshall can fantasize about other women is if he kills off Lily in a fantasy. So it's basically that scenario is basically telegraphing the entire trajectory of the series, and it's kind of, I don't know. It felt weird because it's like that should signal to them that it's not a good finale if their finale is used as humor, as comedy in an earlier episode. I just don't understand that. I mean, the episodes are still funny. You can't make something that's funny unfunny. That's very profound, Matt. Good job. See, I don't have the other guys to play off of. I was gonna have my brother on if he wanted to be on, but I don't think he would have wanted to. I thought it would have been fun if I just introed all these clips and had my brother like, I don't know what a podcast is. So enough about what I wanted to do. This next clip is... did I go on a tangent? Yeah, I think I did. Wow, that was a tangent. I guess I'm the problem with tangents. Anyway, so this clip is from March 4th. It's my thoughts on The Wolf of Wall Street. Here you go. Matt versus The Wolf of Wall Street.
I also watched Wolf of Wall Street, if we want to talk about that.
Oh, very good.
What'd you think?
Nice. It was all right. I'm honestly, I feel like such a downer because I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was interesting. But I think I have a problem with Scorsese.
Really?
What?
I do. I mean, The Departed is the one movie of his that I like love, absolutely love. I mean, I've watched. That might be the only one of the only movies of his that I've watched multiple times, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't know. There's something about him that I'm not drawn to him the way that everyone is. And
you've still never seen Raging Bull, have you?
No.
Oh man.
I bought the special edition DVD of that like 10 years ago. I don't know about that, but like probably a good 6 or 7 years ago.
Yep.
And I gave my old copy to Matt, and he's still never watched it.
Yeah. Still on the shelf. I'm looking at it right now. This will be insulting to you. Well, half insulting, I'm sure. Well, maybe not insulting, but it's in close proximity to Lady in the Water.
Oh my god.
In terms of importance?
No, it's just on the shelf. It's like there's Lady in the Water, 25th Hour. I don't know why I own this, but Flight of the Phoenix.
Oh.
No idea. That was a blind buy. And then Raging Bull and Apocalypse Now. And also the original Godzilla or Gojira. I'm not being racist. That's that title.
That is what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
That just
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes. Let's get back on topic.
Could have used a lot of editing.
It was really the editing that it had was kind of sloppy.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of took me out of the movie a lot. There was a lot of like cuts, like just in conversational scenes, there was cuts between two characters that were really jarring and really took me out of the movie.
Yeah, it didn't have a very fluid edit to it.
Right.
No.
I agree.
It was the episodes of Jordan Belfort. The Adventures of Jordan Belfort.
And it was interesting. But I don't know. It was just kind of. I did think that Jonah Hill was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was.
I thought that he did just an incredible job.
Especially the scene where we meet him. His first scene is awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. After that, it kind of gets into more just normal behavior for him. But that first scene was just like I was like blown away. I was like, wow, Jonah Hill has some range. That's awesome.
What is it gonna take for him to win a Best Supporting Actor? Because
timing.
He keeps it is timing. You're exactly right. And I was kind of setting up my point to say he keeps doing great work in tough years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember to whom he lost in 2011, but Moneyball was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He was the scene where they make the trades in Moneyball is one of my favorite scenes from that year, and it's Jonah Hill, really.
Nice.
It's Sorkin, really.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
It is Sorkin.
Yeah.
It is Sorkin, but he plays it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think to your point about just an issue you have with Marty, I think he has two different
You're like your buddy.
Oh, he is.
Nice.
He has two very different kinds of films that he will make. He will do something I think like Casino to an extent, and I think Wolf of Wall Street. Can't think of any other examples really, but some of these movies it seems like he doesn't have necessarily an overall vision for a film. It's just he has these actors who are remarkable, and he has a pretty darn good script, and he just kind of lets his actors kind of develop it how he wants, and he just kind of puts scenes together. I think that's kind of how some of his movies are. But then you get something like The Aviator, or you get something like Hugo or Taxi Driver. Those are just stories. Those have like rigid structure to them, and he has an overall vision for those films. And I feel like those movies that I just mentioned, they don't necessarily feel like Martin Scorsese movies at all.
Right.
They're very different. They have such a different tone to them. I feel like he makes two different kinds of movies, and I like both of them, but I prefer the ones like Hugo and like The Aviator and stuff like that.
We might not have time to talk about this, but I hated Hugo.
I still haven't seen Hugo.
Wow. Yeah,
Really?
I hated it. Yeah, I didn't get it.
Wow.
I mean, if you guys want to record some B-roll of it.
I don't, because it also it's been a long time since I saw it.
Yeah, same here. It wouldn't be a good discussion.
Yeah, it got 11 nominations.
It's so many. It's nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it won 5 Oscars. I'm looking up Best Supporting for.
It lost to the other movie about movies that year, The Artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down year for movies that year.
Yeah, it really was. That was the year, and I could be wrong. Was that the year hit hardest by the writer's strike in 2008?
No, that was.
It was 2010?
I think it was. No, that was the 84th, so it was 2012. 2011 movies.
Right, Hugo was. I'm saying it was hit by the writer's strike in 2008. In 2008, when good movies were being started.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? When good movies were starting to be made in 2008 to come out in 2011, they were not because of the writer's strike. But it could have been 2010.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been, that might be a little long.
3 years?
I don't know.
I really don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I probably would need to see it again to make a better assessment, but I don't think I'll ever see that movie again.
Huh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The Best Supporting Actor nominees for that year, besides Jonah Hill, was Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh?
Branagh. Yeah. In My Week with Marilyn. Nick Nolte in Warrior.
Oh, yeah, he was good.
And Max von Sydow in Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close. And the winner was Christopher Plummer for Beginners.
Oh, I never saw that.
Yeah, and
I would have given it to Christopher Plummer. Yeah, he was my pick that year.
That was the one with Ewan McGregor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dad comes out as a gay man after like 50 years of marriage or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Nice. I was gonna be a total ass when you asked what Jonah Hill needs to win Best Supporting Actor, win an Oscar, and I was gonna say play a guy with AIDS.
And that's it. Thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast.
The last episode of the Obsessive
Viewer
run. Podcast. I'm just said that just to.
You have a point.
You do. You're right.
I do, but I do think that Leto's performance and McConaughey, they both put in really good performances in a movie that I just wasn't that crazy about.
You almost sounded like resentful. They put in really good performances.
Yeah, they really gave their all to a movie that they were the only two. Yeah.
Jared Leto was great. He was my pick. I think he totally deserved that Oscar.
Yeah, he was great.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize him at the beginning. At first.
Yeah. He's hot.
I know. Yeah, in my head, I kept thinking of Walton Goggins and that crappy FX show we don't talk about.
Yeah.
And that crap Justified?
No, I've never seen Justified, but I've heard really good things. I'm talking about that the white trash soap opera that pretends to be The Shield.
Oh,
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We don't need to say anything about that show.
Yeah, we don't.
No,
I won't.
Okay. Although, if I were to say, I'm kidding.
I don't.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I just got a text message. Oh, you can open those doors if it stinks. Yeah, I'm in my brother's sunroom where we usually record, which my brother and his girlfriend have taken to convert our studio into a space for their kitten. So there's a little cage and litter box and stuff. So that'll be interesting when Tiny comes over the next time because he's allergic to cats. Yeah, so the text message says, you can open those doors if it stinks. There's no reason for me to say this, so I'll just go ahead and throw you into the next clip. This clip is actually a long one. We actually recorded it specifically for this type of episode. It's a lengthy one. It's about half an hour. It's me and Mike discussing Star Wars. Now, I am not a big Star Wars fan, and he is a huge fan, and he was trying to tell me exactly why he's a fan, and I was trying to explain why I wasn't that attached to it. It was recorded on January 30th, shortly after my gallbladder surgery, actually. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so here it is. Yes.
I didn't hear any.
You didn't hear? Oh, no. Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah. So, you wanted to talk to me about Star Wars.
I did. Here's the thing, Matt. You are one of, if not the most, the person with whom I put the most faith in terms of movie recommendations.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, I trust you the most when it comes to movies. So when you tell me, or when we're talking about Star Wars, and you say, I was never that into it, my response is always, defer.
Right. It's... Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. Quite a lot.
I hope you have.
I really have, because it's not like I'm it's not like I'm against Star Wars. It's not like I think it's the worst movie ever or it's the worst franchise ever or anything. Far from it. I think they're fun movies, fun adventure movies. But I mean, when I just can't really fathom the religious fanaticism of it.
Yeah.
Of its fandom. It's pretty. I mean, it's the most prolific. It's the most prolific film franchise of all time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
by far. Yeah.
Yep.
So I just don't get it. Like, let me pose this question to you. I may have asked you this before, but
sure.
Boba Fett.
Okay. That is a great question. And listeners are like, he didn't even ask a question.
Exactly.
I to be honest, I don't understand the Boba Fett.
Nice.
And that, I think, really has gained popularity, I want to say, in the last 20 years.
Really?
Right? And of course, Return of the Jedi came out 31 years ago. It just kind of celebrated its 30-year anniversary. And, of course, we saw Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back. Actually, the first appearance of Boba Fett was in the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special.
Really?
Yeah, he's in an animated short, and Luke is also in it voiced by Mark Hamill, of course.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's kind of the first glimpse we ever saw of Boba Fett, which, of course, was released in 1978. So I don't think he was as popular then as he is now. I think that's a fairly new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if, like, the beefed-up scenes of him in the 1997 re-releases are kind of the cause for that.
Okay, see, I've never seen the original ones, the theatrical cuts. But first, let me ask you this.
Sure. 2 questions. Hard hitting here.
Yes.
Go for
the
it.
holiday special.
Yeah.
Now, I know about it. I know that it's a feature-length special, right?
Yep.
That involves Wookiees singing or something.
It's Wookiees sing. Yeah, that is the case.
Okay, and
it's so bad. They're singing. It came out during Christmas, so it's a holiday special.
Yeah,
but they're celebrating Life Day on Kashyyyk.
Okay, sure.
And you meet Chewbacca's family for the first time. His father Itchy and his son Lumpy.
Okay, all right. So where did this air? Where was it on network TV, or was it like this big thing? How big was it when it came out, and when did it come out? Because
it was kind of a big deal when it came out. It came out on November 17th back in '78, which
my sister's birthday. Oh wow! Huh.
Yeah, which was I guess about a year and a half after Star Wars was released, and it came out on CBS, and it was kind of a big deal, and. Just like reading interviews and things, a lot of people didn't want to do it, including and specifically Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
He thought it was kind of a dumb idea, but they just went ahead with it anyway. They were always big on expanding the story and all that. It's so awful. It's so bad.
Okay.
I really wish that I'd never seen it.
Yeah, because you do well. Okay. As a collector, though, you don't regret buying it, correct?
No. As a collector, I love the fact that I have it.
That's good. So,
George Lucas, by the way, has said if I had the time and a sledgehammer, I would track down every copy of that show and smash it.
Oh, that's
actually
great.
on the front of the DVD that I have.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, how much input did he have on it? Because 78, that was before Empire. Right?
It was, yeah. It was about a year and a half before Empire came out.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So the thing about Boba Fett that I've asked like my former manager at work, I asked him about it because he's a little older, so he remembers seeing Star Wars like as a kid, and his rationale for the fandom for Boba Fett is that there was such a delay between Empire and Return that people saw like, oh, there's this badass with a jetpack and a phaser or a gun or what a phaser, just this really badass bounty hunter. And then in Return of the Jedi, George Lucas is just like, oh hey, yeah, we're just gonna throw him in the Sarlacc pit, and then that's maybe why he's got that kind of thing where maybe they thought that he was going to be a bigger deal, but he's just not.
Yeah.
But why isn't he though? Why did they do that? I don't understand, because he is like an appealing character in terms of well, you can see from action figures and everything. He's got a big.
Oh, he is cooling, and he's cool, and he's got a jetpack.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So, I mean, why would George? I don't want to question the choices of George Lucas.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't understand the reasoning to do that.
I don't know. There's a lot of stories about how George Lucas really was not apt to let people mess with his vision.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And people talk about how he wanted to do it his way, and the movies kind of suffered for that.
Mm-hmm.
And Return of the Jedi kind of suffered anyway. I mean, I know he didn't direct the last two,
right?
Or I guess episode. He didn't direct Empire or Jedi,
right?
But maybe it was his way of saying, the fans are kind of taking Boba Fett as theirs, so I'm gonna kill him.
Okay, that That makes sense in a really douchey way.
Yeah, it does. He's actually not my favorite bounty hunter. Mine was always
really?
Bosk.
I don't remember.
Which
Bosk.
like in the first scene, you see Boba Fett. Darth Vader's kind of walking around, and he's talking to this group of bounty hunters, including Boba Fett and IG-88 and Bosk, and he's talking about capturing Han Solo, or capturing Luke, just capturing all of them. He just wants them all.
Right.
And so Bosk is there. He's kind of the dinosaur-looking guy.
Okay, I vaguely remember him.
Yeah, he was always my favorite, just because I liked dinosaurs.
Nice.
Kid. Yeah.
Nice.
So you mentioned earlier that you don't understand the religion behind it.
I don't, and I've always accredited that to me coming to the series late.
Yes.
Which
I'm surprised that you don't understand it.
I mean I guess I can understand the fandom, because I'm like I love the things that I love, and I love them devotedly. Like I would take a bullet for a DVD of Lost. Like that's like I have that kind of affection for the things that I'm into. So I can understand like the degree to which that people are into Star Wars and everything. I just think of it as the art that it's representing and what they're being fans of. It seems a little shaky, because it seems like everyone's like, oh, like the age-old question is, or maybe not age-old question, but everyone says Empire is better than A New Hope, and they're both so great, and then everyone's like, Jedi is a little bad, and we're not going to talk about those prequels, and there's that holiday special, I don't know about that. So it's basically like, so far it's 6 movies, with more to come. Hopefully they're good. But 6 movies where 2 of them are like the pristine movies that they're championing. Wow. So I just don't understand that. I mean, with the things that I'm into, like, again, sorry to bring up Lost. I loved every season of Lost.
Yeah.
But then again, that's also subjective.
It is subjective, and there's a lot of people who don't love every season of Lost.
Oh, a lot of people hate a lot of seasons of Lost.
Yeah, you know.
But
and then on the other hand, there are people who love all of the Star Wars movies. We kind of have to take away the prequels, like because it's still huge now, but Star Wars was a religion before the prequels.
That's true.
So let's kind of take, if you don't mind, let's kind of take those out of the equation conversation. But that said, the original Star Wars trilogy had more time to kind of sit in the public consciousness in comparison to Lost. So while they had just initial adoration for the entire thing, they've really just had time to break it down. I think when Jedi first came out, I don't know that they were all – I mean, it was received quite well still. And I think people were just happy to see the end of it. Some people were put off by the Ewoks. It was a little strange. But I think people still loved it even then. And it wasn't till, years of scrutiny that people started to deconstruct Jedi and name their favorites.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've read more books and articles than I can count about why Star Wars is so popular. One of my favorites was My Best Friend is a Wookiee.
I remember you recommending that to me. Yeah. Still haven't gotten around to that, but I'll get to it eventually.
It's really good, and I love how it kind of tells the story of like why he's a fan. And like me, he's maybe 1 or 2 years older than I am, so he wasn't born when any of those movies came out. And to be honest, he almost talks about how it's hard to explain why Star Wars is what it is, but more than anything, if you find it at a certain age, it's like the perfect coming of age tale for someone who might also be coming of age. You know what I mean?
That actually makes a lot of sense with Luke kind of finding his place in the rebels and all that stuff. Yeah, I can understand that, and becoming the Jedi and all that. I can see that as a coming of age tale, and I don't know. Like I mentioned that I came to it late, which. I mean, the first time I saw Star Wars, the first opportunity I had to see Star Wars, I was like maybe 8 or 9. and that wasn't. I don't think I was old enough, or I didn't really appreciate it at that point. And then the first time I actually really sat down and watched it, I watched it as like a junior high kid who's all like, "I'm going to be into movies, and Star Wars is really good, so I'm going to watch these movies."
Sure.
And it was like, I was just watching them. It was like just a crappy little VHS copy that I got from the library that I put into a little tiny TV, and it was just like I didn't get it just didn't hook me because of. I don't want to put it all toward the circumstances that I watched it, but I wasn't watching it to watch Star Wars. I was watching it to watch a movie that people loved, and I think that skewed it.
Okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
By the way, My Best Friend is a Wookiee was written by Tony Pasiti.
Nice. Okay.
I just want to put that out there. I found Star Wars, I think, also at a pretty. I mean, I want to say you said what, you were 9 or 10?
Yeah, about that age.
So like mid 90s, but did you see it before the re-releases?
I can't really remember the circumstances. Well, in the mid 90s, I watched it when I lived in Ohio. Our neighbor was babysitting us, and he was a Star Wars just fanatic. Dr. Anderson, if he's listening.
Hi, Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Anderson, in Ohio. But he had just like a big screen TV, like the state of the art technology, and so we watched it. And like the first thing I thought was, why are we starting on part 4?
Yeah.
So and that kind of just,
which of course wasn't added until the Laserdisc version.
Right. It may have been actually the Laserdisc that we were watching. Now that I think about it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just. I was just like, all right, we're at part 4, and then I'm like, well, how did they get on this ship? How did the droids get on this ship? But
in Simon Pegg's book Nerd Do Well, which I like to call Nerd Do Well,
nice.
It's an okay book, but he has a chapter about Star Wars and the cultural impact of Star Wars.
Okay.
Which was by far my most favorite part of the book.
Nice.
And he talks about just kind of the impact on it. Imagine seeing it as a kid, as a 12-year-old in 1977.
Oh.
It would have absolutely blown your mind.
Oh yeah.
But more than that, what he likes about it, he kind of talks about like the political aspect of it, and kind of how it was like in the heat of in the middle of the Cold War, but it kind of took a neutral stance on politics. And I know that kind of makes people say, "Wait a second, what?" But the people in order were the Empire, and then it was, of course, the people going against them, which was not what was happening in America. Right. So it was almost like a way of trying to understand what was going on in the Soviet Union and Russia. Stateside.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He said it. He said it a lot better than I did. I'm not a politician, but right. It just kind of hit. It hit the country at a perfect time.
Wow. Saying that, I would assume that that's just a cultural way that they perceived it and everything, and not Lucas didn't intend it that way, did he?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't think so. Huh. That's interesting, and I can understand how that the climate of the late 70s could really add to the fire of Star Wars. Plus, I mean, technologically speaking, it's jaw dropping when put into the perspective of 1970s films. Just the special effects and all that are really well done. So. But I maybe if I could time travel, or if I could do that, I would do that. But then, like for your bachelor party, when we watched all 3 on the big screen and everything, I had a blast. I thought that was fantastic. That was the best setting to watch it. And granted, it was with a bunch of people and with a bunch of friends and
who are also Star Wars nerds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I it built up on that, but. I don't know. It was a lot more fun, and I think the problem with it is that I love space. Like
that's kind of my thing, and I wish I said that earlier.
Yeah, I love space movies, and I haven't really connected with Star Wars, but in the interim between trying to connect to Star Wars and or the interim between not liking Star Wars and trying to connect to it, I've built up this thing with a bunch of space movies. I mean, 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of my favorite movies, and that's a very realistic and practical kind of vision of the future. And
absolutely,
yeah, and I've more recently I've gotten into like Alien and like the Star Trek movies and Danny Boyle's Sunshine. So I have all of these movies that are kind of both contemporary and also from the 70s that are just depictions of space in a way that I love seeing it. So I have built into my head this way of, this is what a space movie for me is going to be like that I'm going to love. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I go to see Star Wars, it's a fantasy adventure movie set in space. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so much fantasy, but you know what I mean. Well, fantasy. But so that's kind of how I maybe when I approached Star Wars, I was like, okay, well, this is like the best space movie ever.
I know, and you know what? I struggle with that because I talked to some of my friends who really are into the Lord of the Rings franchise.
Okay.
And I always tell them, well, I'm not really into fantasy all that much, but kind of like you said, Star Wars is essentially a fantasy movie just set in space.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I always like to point out it has magic, it has a wizard, it has a pirate, it has a princess. You know what I mean? It has all those elements of fantasy. So it kind of is. But I don't know. Yeah. You know, I wonder if that fantasy aspect, along with the humor of it, correct me if I'm wrong. Listeners, correct me if I'm wrong too. Star Wars Episode 4, which unfortunately we have to call it, Star Wars kind of was the first chance for nerds to not be put in such a small little box. You know what I mean? Star Wars was kind of the first nerdy thing that made nerdy things acceptable to the general public.
That sounds about right.
Star Wars was a box office smash, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And before that, being a nerd was a scary thing, you know what I mean? You liked very specific things that the rest of the public consciousness was not aware of or frowned upon.
Yeah, very niche, very...
Totally.
So, especially with teenagers. I mean, there's the there's a stereotype of nerds being this very, very clear depiction of nerds back in the day, not so much now. Like, I mean, look at the caricatures of the nerds in The Big Bang Theory. That's pretty much the stereotype that's been nerds for many decades.
Right.
And Star Wars was the first time that it kind of became mainstream, and I mean, we're a little oversaturated with nerd culture now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm referring to, is just how we talk about how cool it is to be a nerd today, and that's totally a topic of discussion for another podcast episode. But I kind of have to point to Star Wars as the first one.
Yeah, because off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything else that really broke the cultural barrier or whatever in a mainstream way. Yeah. So yeah, that is also another. It's a good point. It's a good point for its legacy.
So your thesis is you just don't love Star Wars because it hit you at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's just an issue of just the right thing, but at the wrong time. It doesn't resonate with me the way that it resonates with other people. It resonates with me as a movie that is really good, at least the first two. But other than that, honestly, like at your bachelor party, seeing Empire on the big screen was the first time I thought, yeah, that's better than A New Hope. Which is,
to be honest with you, I go back and forth.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you've mentioned that before.
I go back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it was always Jedi. I thought Jedi was the best, and I think mostly just as a little kid, it was because I liked the green lightsaber.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Ewoks.
As far as I knew, the green lightsaber was the only one you could buy, so I thought it was cool that I had the same lightsaber as Luke Skywalker.
I see.
Well, you could also buy the Darth Vader's red one, but I mean of Luke's. Anyway, and then I kind of went with the public who said that Empire is the superior movie. But just kind of recently, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, I've done a couple of watching of the trilogy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that first movie is pretty unbelievable.
It's really incredible. It's the script is just really great. I mean, it's really it's a tight. I don't know how else to describe it other than it being just a really well put together script. And then Empire is good, but it's bigger. And people make the argument. They say that it's darker than the first, which it's darker, but it's also that kind of not kid friendly, but it's kind of that it's not as dark as I would want it to be. Because when I came to it, when I really embraced it or tried to embrace it, I mean by that point I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I want this really dark stuff.
Gritty. Yeah.
Yeah, really gritty stuff. And it's not that. So everyone's like, oh, it's darker than the first one. I was like, no.
Yeah. It is darker than the first one, though.
It is, yeah, in tone, but it's not. I mean, it's not really that. When I hear it's something being darker than it just makes me think of like gritty stuff, like the Dark Knight trilogy compared to the Joel Schumacher exactly
Batman movies.
Yeah.
For me, I guess my thesis is I can't explain what's so great about it, but millions of people can't be wrong.
Right?
Yes, they can. They totally can. But it totally, in the same way it didn't for you, it hit me at really I can point to really important times in my life that Star Wars was just kind of there. When I moved from the city to the suburbs, that's when I discovered Star Wars. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And a friend of mine showed me Star Wars, and that was kind of our thing. And then I got really into it with the re-releases. And then I moved to Indiana, and I had some friends who also liked it, and so that was cool. And then later on, when the prequels started coming out, I was able to flaunt that interest again.
Yeah.
So it just came to me at important times.
Okay. A quick thing.
Sure.
Shortly.
Hopefully we'll have to sum it up here too, because I got to get going.
Okay. I do have a quick memory of that. I was at Kings Island when I was in 8th grade or something, or maybe not 8th grade, but it was probably 7th grade. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had just seen Phantom Menace, and he was telling me all about it. And this may have been. I don't know when it was. It may have been 6th grade. But anyway, we were
in 6th grade when Phantom Menace came out.
Okay, so you just seen it, and he basically told me the entire plot.
Yeah.
And he made it sound so awesome.
And then they take these pod racers.
Yeah. The thing that got me...
3 lightsaber fights? Dude, your mind is going to be blown.
Yeah. But the thing that got me about his analysis of it was he was like, then the guy who is... the guy's... the master, he's talking about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. He's like, the guy's master dies, and then the apprentice has to defeat him on his own. I was like, that's such a cool scenario. And when I saw it, that is a very cool lightsaber battle.
Yeah.
So and that kind of goes back to even at 6th grade, I was kind of looking at kind of grittier kind of things.
Yeah.
Hell, I was into Scream when I was in 5th grade.
That's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy.
There's a video, speaking of Star Wars Episode 1, there's a video online called What If Star Wars Episode 1 Was Good? I would recommend people check that out.
Nice.
But I got to get going.
All right, cool. Thanks for...
Good talk, Russ.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, thanks for jumping on here and talking to me.
Yeah, no problem. This was fun.
Yeah.
Matt, may the Force be with you.
To infinity and beyond.
You say, and also with you.
Oh, and also with you.
All right, man.
All right, talk to you later.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jason and I'm the host of the Going On podcast. It's an interview-style podcast brought to you all the way from Australia. I believe everybody has an interesting story to tell, and I'm here to ask the questions and listen to that story. Recently, I've had a scientist on, a tattooist, a TV producer, and also a professional photographer, just to name a couple. So why not come and have a listen at dwarfmedia.com. That's DAWF media.com. You'll listen to all the podcasts there. You can find me on Instagram. My username is TheDwarf, one word. Or you can also find me on Facebook under Jason Dwarf, where we're kept up to date with all the goings on. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. Just search Going On Podcast and you'll find it right there. So I hope you come check us out. See you soon, freaks.
Yeah, so, yeah, that about, well, you know what? I got one more clip I can play, actually. This is a good one. This is a really good one. I saved this one for last for a reason. No, it's from October, I think. No, February 17th. Me and Tiny were listening, we watched the trailer for The Zero Theorem, Terry Gilliam's latest movie, and we just basically had like a little discussion about sci-fi and what the trailer looked like and a little bit of 12 Monkeys, stuff like that. So it will be interesting, I guess. I say interesting a lot, you guys. I'm in my head. Yeah. And I'm in your ears. I shouldn't have said that. That's stupid. I might cut that out. So, okay, here is my sci-fi discussion with Tiny.
Okay.
You want to start recording?
Yeah, I've actually been recording for about a minute and a half.
Nice.
I should have recorded your audio of the thing so I could have clips of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll redo that later.
Cool.
Yeah. We still got tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. Wait, don't you let go.
You want to just go right into it? Don't like introduce it or anything. Just go right into the discussion.
Right. Okay. So, Tiny, you just finished watching the Zero Theorem trailer for the first time.
I did. It looks so much like Brazil.
Really? See,
yeah, and like the plot and everything, they showed Christoph Waltz doing his thing, and then I was like, okay, seems kind of like Jonathan Pryce from Brazil. This is interesting. And then they show the girl, and like I was like, okay, well, there's a girl kind of like in Brazil, and then she's like, and I think we're connected. I was like, that's Brazil.
Really? See,
which I love Brazil. It's a movie.
Like I've never seen Brazil. I haven't seen very much Terry Gilliam except for 12 Monkeys and the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of, not having seen Brazil, watching this trailer makes me think I'm kind of eager to see it, because usually I'm kind of not necessarily put off by his style, but it's kind of this weird kind of futuristic kind of old style futuristic kind of thing. It's kind of dirty and grimy, and
it is. His style is so unique that it can actually be off-putting to a lot of people.
Yeah. But having seen this trailer, I mean, it looks interesting, and it makes me kind of curious to go back and check out like Brazil and stuff, because I mean that kind of aesthetic, it's never really appealed to me, but now it kind of is, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Maybe it's just,
I understand.
Yeah, maybe it's just where I am now, and it's I love seeing, or I felt like I said, I love 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is an awesome movie. It's one of my favorite time travel movies. Mm-hmm. And it's also, to my understanding, Terry Gilliam's like most normal movie.
Yeah, it is.
And it's kind of interesting in the fact that I like that movie a lot, and seeing Christoph Waltz in, like, you connected the trailer to Brazil heavily, and I connected that scene where Christoph Waltz is there are those three people behind the desk talking to him while he's kind of laying in the thing, and he says something, I can't remember what it is, but it's he's laying there, and it's kind of, he's on display of these three people behind this desk, and it kind of reminded me a lot of 12 Monkeys.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it was kind of interesting to see that and make that connection. And I'm kind of curious what it is, and it also, I don't know. So are you excited about it, or?
I am. I remember seeing the trailer or seeing the stuff for it on IMDb, but Like on IMDb, it was like a clip, and I was like, I don't want to watch a clip. That's not a good. I don't like that idea. And so I just put off watching the trailer. I don't know why, but it looks cool. I mean, like I said, it looks a lot like Brazil, but Brazil was awesome. It's a good movie. And yet, like I haven't seen a whole ton of Terry Gilliam either. Like Brazil, 12 Monkeys, and Dr. Parnassus. Those are I think the only movies of his that I've actually seen.
Oh, really?
He hasn't done a lot, really.
He really hasn't.
At least not a lot of big mainstream stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's great. You have to be in the right mood to watch a Terry Gilliam movie.
Absolutely.
He's very moody, very unique.
Yeah.
But I think really talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking at his IMDb now. Oh, you saw The Brothers Grimm, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
He directed Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Huh.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Monty Python stuff. But, yeah, he's got kind of a unique style, and it's something that I don't... You know, with someone who has such a unique style and someone who has such a... Like, he almost has like a trademark on that kind of style. And it's... When directors usually have that kind of their own like visual cues, you kind of see other directors kind of try to emulate them. And I don't know that I've ever seen anyone try to emulate Gilliam. Maybe it's because he can't be emulated.
Yeah, I agree, because he's... I don't think you can really... He's kind of in his own box.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah, and you're right when you said 12 Monkeys is his most normal movie.
Right.
And it's still pretty weird.
It really is. I mean, Brad Pitt's performance alone, I mean...
Yeah.
It's a fantastic performance, but...
Yeah.
It's also pretty out there. Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's kind of funny that we have this... Because from what I can glean from the trailer is that it's kind of about, I assume that it's a quest to discover the nature of man or the history of, or something. I don't know exactly how to phrase it.
Answer some of the deepest questions of mankind's existence.
Exactly. So it's going to be a fun, hilarious movie.
It's lighthearted. You know, just sit back.
Yeah. It'll basically be like Superbad, but with Christoph Waltz.
Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the actual... Oh, sorry. I was going to say the plot outline is a computer hacker's goal to discover the reason for human existence continually finds his work interrupted thanks to the management. This time they send a teenager and lusty love interest to distract him. So it sounds like it has obviously some big themes and everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I hadn't seen the woman before that's in it. Melanie Thierry, was that her name?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I've never seen her either.
No, I have no idea who that is. I don't know. She's her name and her accent sounded a little French. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe she's a famous French actress, but
maybe
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks interesting, and it's kind of a big indicator of where we are. Oh, maybe I'm speaking too much of it because it actually already has an IMDb rating of 6.9, so maybe it could very well not be that great, but. It's I wanted to say that too, but it's interesting that it has kind of this way about it that's kind of a big indicator of how we are, the state of cinema now, is that we're kind of going toward more of these kind of sci-fi kind of weird abstract movies. I mean, we have like Transcendence coming out relatively soon, and then I'm sure Nolan's gonna face some of these kind of big philosophical questions in Interstellar. Even to a lesser extent, just in sci-fi in general. I mean, Gravity's nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
For Best Picture. So it's interesting to see these kind of science fiction, kind of abstract kind of movies like that. Getting more play and being more prominent in the grand scheme of cinema.
Yeah, that is nice. I think it has something to do with the fact that sci-fi is kind of, I don't want to say it's limited, but it's not limitless either. I mean, there's so it's just like I feel like there's so much sci-fi that's been made already that's very derivative.
Yeah,
and it's just like you're kind of seeing the same story over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's maybe why they're looking for stuff that's so unique like this. That's poses bigger questions and makes you think. I think sci-fi that makes you think has become almost its own genre.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, oh look, they have spaceships and stuff blows up. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of, I can kind of see how they're kind of taking more risks too with this kind of stuff. In that manner. It's really neat to see. It's really cool to see these kind of things happen. And these kind of projects getting like big. And granted, a lot of them are kind of, like I said, they're pretty much all. Maybe I should revise my statement and say that it's interesting to see the bigger names handling this kind of thing. I mean, granted, Terry Gilliam's already done stuff like this in the past, but I mean, this is Nolan's first, space movie at least. Interstellar is, and then Wally Pfister, this is his directorial debut with Transcendence, but it's a big movie for him to do. It's not like he's starting small and growing out. He's really going for it. And of course, Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity, he kind of, that was a big movie for him too. So it's really interesting to see just how audiences and how filmmakers are responding to sci-fi. And I agree that it is kind of a big thing for for directors to or for filmmakers to basically make sci-fi and make it derivative of everything else. I mean, you look at the grand scheme of sci-fi, if you look at kind of the big picture of sci-fi, it's all been like you said, it's all been very derivative. And even the Zero Theorem is kind of, like you said, it reminds you a lot of Brazil. Mm-hmm. But it's also interesting to see them evolve past, not to shift to space movies or anything, but it's interesting to see them evolve past, hey, we're going to this place and we're going to find this and we're finding a signal and we're going to come back and all that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see that kind of thing. Like one of my favorite sci-fi movies is Sunshine by Danny Boyle. I've mentioned it several times.
Yeah. And
there's no mistaking that it is deeply, deeply indebted to Alien and several other sci-fi movies to the point where it's actually, to a certain extent, it's derivative of Alien. Because, I mean, they're a crew on a ship, they find a signal, they go to the signal, hell breaks loose. It's the same framework, but the difference is that it makes these... The difference is that it's a different movie, obviously, but it makes these statements about what they're doing, and I feel like that's the big difference between sci-fi and sci-fi of today and sci-fi of yesteryear.
Right, and it's taken much more seriously now. I think it used to be treated like, just only nerds watch sci-fi stuff.
Right.
They associated all sci-fi with Star Trek. It's just like. It can be such a deeper genre. It can have so much more to it.
Yeah.
You can use it as a palette to tell really deep stories. So
right.
I think it's overcome that stigma, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And it's an interesting. It's interesting to me. I've said interesting like 7 million times.
I think it's probably closer to 10,000 million.
Yeah, but. Which would probably be like 10 billion, to be fair.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, it's funny you mentioned that about sci-fi being associated with nerds and everything, because that's something that we touched on when Mike and I talked about Star Wars. How do you feel that it's? Let me scratch that. Another thing is, it's funny that it's. Sci-fi has had a very, very long and fruitful history in novel in literature, and it's a niche genre, of course, across the board. But it's interesting to see. It's But it's cool to see films almost not adopting, but almost becoming like their literature counterparts in terms of sci-fi to a smaller extent, obviously, but they're taken more seriously by the fans of that. It's like people are cultivating their own fandoms for that instead of Hollywood shoving something down our throats like, okay, this is a sci-fi movie. They're going to this place and they're fighting things. Okay, sci-fi. Instead, it's like, hey, here's sci-fi. Let's leave the theater thinking about who we are as a species.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, so it's cool to see sci-fi on film taking its place the same way sci-fi on the page has.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to discuss or anything?
No. Kind of looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, me too. I don't know when the release date is. Oh, I also want to mention that it's cool to see what's his name? David Thewlis in something that's not Harry Potter. Although I'm looking at his IMDb now, he's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, he's been in so much stuff, but I've always been a huge fan of his. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it seems like he doesn't get huge parts anymore. Like you see, I don't know. He's kind of hard to get a line on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like, judging from the trailer for the Zero Theorem, it looks like he has a pretty prominent role in it to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How was he in The Fifth Estate?
He was fine. It was it was a character role, just standard character acting for him, because he could be such a great actor. He sort of gets thrown into the character actor category, but
yeah,
I think he's capable of so much more. Like if you watch a movie like Gangster Number One,
mm-hmm.
he's kind of the unofficial main character of the story. Like he's kind of the lead of the story.
Okay,
and he goes through a huge transformation in that movie. And it's awesome. I love that movie. He's great in it, and I would have thought something like that would have, kind of launched him a little bit better, and he would have been more of a leading man, or at least like a supporting kind of actor. But he's just you just kind of see him in character acting stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Huh. I need to watch The Big Lebowski again because I don't even remember him in it.
He's only in it for he might have 5 minutes of screen time in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did we see The New World together?
No.
Okay.
Is that
I'm thinking of Apocalypto, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The New World is the John Smith story, but it's super, super boring.
2 hours 15 minutes of Colin Farrell banging Pocahontas, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Terrence Malick. What a surprise.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, I thought it was Terrence Malick.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's not fair. I haven't seen maybe any Terrence Malick movies, but all I know about him is that he's very long and very boring.
I've seen enough of him. I'm not a fan. I don't take anything away from him, though. I think he's really a really skilled filmmaker, but there's just something about it. It's just, he just drags everything out. Everything is so super disjointed, and like things should connect to each other, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. I'm just not a fan. It's too
interpretive.
It's too interpretive. It's too metaphysical for me. It's metaphysical in an unfulfilling way.
Okay.
I don't care like when I was watching The Tree of Life, and like all of a sudden we're looking at dinosaurs and shit, I was like, what we were talking, there was a family in the 50s who was being raised. Brad Pitt was bringing up 2 kids in the 1950s, and all of a sudden we're looking at dinosaurs. What? I wasn't a fan.
Wow. I haven't seen Tree of Life yet for that exact reason. I need to. Maybe once I get through all these Oscar nominees, I'll check it out. Just out of point of thing. But the final thing I want to bring up, just real quick, is you saw the movie Anonymous. David Thewlis was in that also. This was probably like 2-3 years ago for you. But out of curiosity, because I mean, It's directed by Roland Emmerich, and given our private conversations about William Shakespeare last night, it just made me think, like, how is that movie? Is it, because I remember hearing what episode, what podcast was that? I think Michael Chiklis was on some podcast. It may have actually been Nerdist, maybe. I don't know if he ever did Nerdist. But anyway, he was on a podcast where I was hearing him talk about how he was fascinated by the idea that the theory that William Shakespeare didn't write William Shakespeare's plays. It was actually someone else, and there's evidence for it, and he's read books about it, and he was trying so hard to get the rights for one of the books that he read so that he could produce a movie out of it and all that stuff. And the way he talked about it was just absolutely fascinating. And then Roland Emmerich made it. So how's that movie? Because I know that the guy who made 10,000 BC and 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow, I assume that he didn't really take. Maybe it's an unfair assumption on my part, but my interpretation of him directing it is that the only thing I can think is that after he directed that, he directed White House Down. So.
You are not wrong in your assumption. It would have been so much better in the hands of another filmmaker.
Okay.
It's a decent movie. I mean, like I said, it's a decent movie, but it's only decent because the story is so fantastic.
Yeah.
It's such a creative and unknown story that it carries the whole movie, essentially. But it only carries it into decency. It doesn't carry it into being good. In the hands of another director, it would have been a much better film. But I think it would have been a better film if it was more of an indie movie. You know, if it had been like a pet project of a filmmaker. Yeah. It would have been so much better, but it just had studio overproduced hands all over it, I think. And it was to its own detriment. So
that's a shame.
It's worth a watch though, and the performances are decent. Nice. I've always been a Rhys Ifans fan. I think he's good. I think he should be in more things. Right. I was really excited when he got cast as the lizard guy in The Amazing Spider-Man. It was an interesting choice for him. But cool. Yeah, I'd like to see him in more stuff. Definitely check out the movie though, because it's, like I said, it's an interesting story.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out at some point. Because, like I said, I'm kind of interested in just the concept of it. I mean, I want to read more about Shakespeare and all that, like the kind of that controversy thing or theory, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess that about does it.
Cool. Yeah, we went off on a Shakespeare tangent.
Yeah, it was nice. It was, thou art was quite nice, yonder window breaks.
Now make these teenagers bang each other.
Yes. Speaking of books, you can check out obsessivebooknerd.com.
Yay.
Yay. Plugs.
Shameless plug.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Not that I just completely destroyed on any authority of literature by that butchering. But, yeah. So yeah, well, this was fun.
Good deal.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Okay, so thank you for listening to this B-roll episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. I hope you had fun. I had fun here by myself in my studio. I blame Mike and Tiny for not being here. I guess, no, there was a reason. This was an executive decision on my part, guys. Don't blame them. Although you should tweet them and tell them that they're jerks. Tell Mike that he's a jerk for buying a house. Not really. All right. So, as always, thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. And thank you to Star Tissue for providing our awesome opening theme music. You can find more of their music at soundcloud.com/startissue. Make sure to rate and review us on iTunes and vote for us for Podcast of the Month on podcastland.com. It takes no real effort, and it helps us out a lot, and it lets us know that you enjoy listening to us. Also, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. And follow each of us on Twitter. You can find me, Matt, at ObsessiveViewer, Tiny is at ObsessiveTiny, and Mike is at I am Mike White. You can also check out the blog at obsessiveviewer.com. I actually just recently finished up a franchise review of the Planet of the Apes franchise, which was just a lot of fun to go through and watch all those movies. Some of them are kind of not that great, but if you haven't seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes yet, my God, that movie was amazing. I loved it so much. I can't really get it out of my head. There was just so much to it and it didn't sacrifice the pacing or anything like that. It was a very well put together movie, and just the cinematography, like the lighting in the big battle scenes, were just like those little components kind of came together and created something just really, really great. And also, I mean, Andy Serkis, man. And all the CGI and all the mocap stuff is just astounding. So definitely check that out and check out my reviews on the website. Not to mention you'll find plenty of movie reviews and industry commentary and stuff like that on obsessiveviewer.com. So yeah. Also, if you are into books, check out obsessivebooknerd.com. It's our sister website for book reviews and commentary on the evolving world of reading. And then also check out Tiny's side project, The Secular Perspective, at thesecularperspective.com. It's a podcast exploring secularism and religious-related topics and how the two intertwine in society and stuff like that. It's really fun. We've got some cool stuff planned for that, or at least Tiny does. I think he and I are gonna take a trip to the Creation Museum and podcast about that, which should be pretty interesting. Finally, if you have any thoughts on the podcast or suggestions for future topics, or if you want to propose to any of us anything like that, you can email us at ournames@obsessiveviewer.com. So if you want to talk to me, it's Matt@obsessiveviewer.com, Tiny is Tiny@obsessiveviewer.com, and Mike is Mike@obsessiveviewer.com. I think that about does it. How are you? Doing good? That's good. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the B-roll episode, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night or post-apocalyptic life, whenever you're listening to this. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Was a jerk and decided to buy a house with his wife. And so what he's doing is he's in wow, this is hard.